Hey everybody, Hobo4Craft aka MrHobo, bring you guys a StarCraft 2 Shoutcast, and today we are going to have MouzHasuObs of the team Mouse Esports versus EGHuk, who of course is on Evil Geniuses, and obviously it's going to be a Protoss mirror match here on GSL dual site. Now the thing about Protoss mirror is actually it can go either way, even if one player is ridiculously better than the other, though that generally doesn't happen, but it can. Upsets do occur, but both of these plays are actually really good. HasuObs has just been solid since beta, and I think he's just been actually increasing in skill ever since. So he's just been doing a good job of grinding out, doing a lot of practice. Of course, being on mouse has helped him a lot. And EGHuk, as we know, he has switched around a little bit on teams, but has just been a solid player, always placing in tournaments, even if it isn't first. So hopefully this is going to be a good game. And it looks like both players are starting off standardly so far. We're not going to see any sort of proxy. This map is not too long, so you can go for early aggression, but generally players like to play it safe on this map because there is a lot of room in the bases of your opponent. However, it's not really worth it because of how easy it is to scout. And I think this is an NASL tournament map, or not tournament map. It's a GSL map, but this is a tournament game, I believe, from NASL. So I think these players want to play it safe. I think this is the first of a best of 3. And it looks like both are going for the same build. They both have their gases. You can see on the production chart that they're going to be just about identical in their timings. So right now we could expect just a standard 4-gate, but we do have the second gas from EGHuk. And we are going to get it from OBS as well. I think EGHuk was going for a steal, but it looks like that's not going to happen. So they both could go for some sort of robo play, and that would be why they want the gas. That would warrant the gas. Or we could even see Dark Templars, which is a little less common nowadays, especially when you have such good scouting and your opponent this early on. Both are going to be chrono boosting out a Stalker, I presume. Yep, looks like it. Great way to get rid of that early scout from your opponent. And EGHuk has 3 in his second gas, but OBS only has 1, which is peculiar. So he must have a very... I don't know if that was a mistake or he's timing this out perfectly. I wouldn't doubt OBS, but at the same time, I don't know. I guess I don't know Protoss timings well enough to know the exact amount of gas you need. But it looks like we're going to have a 3-gate just for now. Might go into an expansion, but he does have the 2 gas, so we could expect that robo coming up pretty soon. OBS is only opting for 1 more gateway right now. Maybe he's going to go 2 gateway robo. It's weird. He's not really doing much as far as you know, making buildings in that aspect of his macro. He seems to be behind somehow. I don't know if this is by design, but it really seems as though he's just behind without any warrant. But EGHuk has hidden a pylon and one of his probes. Always a smart thing to do, just to keep one around. And he is throwing down another proxy, so you know, we could see a lot more commitment coming. He does have a lot of stalkers. He could be transitioning into blink stalkers, which would definitely make a lot of sense. HasuObs, however, is going for the robo, which I think is a good counter if you are able to get an immortal out, but EGHuk's blink micro is obviously very good, so who knows. And it looks like EGHuk actually is warping in Zealots. That's kind of odd. That seems like a waste to me because OBS can just micro around this and take it out. I don't really know if that was a good idea by EGHuk. But at the same time, he's keeping his opponent away from the ramp so he can just march right up here. And an observer coming out for Obs. I don't know if that's the best decision right now. He probably wants to get out an Immortal, and looks like, yeah, he's going to cancel that. And we're going to have one pylon down already. MrHasuObs is almost supply blocked. And we're going to have a couple sentries coming up. MrHasuObs is having to pull probes, and they are getting picked off by HUK's top 3 control. And wow, it looks like Obs is just in a really bad spot. HUK is going to be pushing up this ramp. There goes another one of his stalkers. He's going to pick off the sentry as well. Will he get it? No, it looks like he'll have to pull back a little bit. Still warping in reinforcements, dragging Obs away from the ramp, trying to get the sentry distracted so he can get up there without any force fields. But it looks like Obs knows better. He's going to have another force field just in time. And I actually think that Obs will be able to defend. Very well done. Very well done by Obs. And he didn't even get the Immortal out. I don't know if he'll need it. It certainly will help, but he does have a good amount of sentries to block his opponent. In the meantime, HUK has expanded. Very smart play. Very smart play. Being aggressive, but at the same time doing so very safely. Now he can keep his opponent up in his base without expanding by just warping in maybe a couple more sentries. He does have about 4 force fields worth. So just very good play, very safe. Obs, I think he might realize this, says, okay, well, I'm not going to be ahead economically, so I better get my tech up. He's getting that robotics bay, and with that, he'll feel safe to move out. But it looks like HUK feels like he's overstaying his welcome and is going to head back home. Will he let these zealots up? I don't think so. Oh, a little bit of a missed micro, and all of the zealots get up. And this could be bad for HUK. He just got a lead in the economy by destroying some of those probes of his opponent. So he's going to have to micro this well. I think Obs is kind of just A-clicking here, so he's not really focus firing anything down. And actually, HUK did not lose. Actually, he lost 3 probes, so I don't know if 3 zealots is worth the 3 probes, but you know what, at least Obs was able to get that scouting information, did see that expansion, saw that robo, so he knows basically what's going on, and with that he was also able to get a couple probe kills, though I don't think any of that should have happened because HUK really should have gotten that force field down, but oh well. Micro mistakes are a part of the game. What are you going to do? We have this Colossus coming out. Will we get extended thermal lance? I think eventually Obs will get that. Such an important upgrade. Lets you have your Colossi safely shooting behind your stalkers. I don't see how you could disregard that sort of an advantage. But HUK really is going to skyrocket in the economy. We see he's already 300 minerals a minute ahead, and he only has 1 more probe. That's because of the distribution of his probes. It's much more efficient to spread your probes out in this way. And the HUK is only running on 2 probes on gas. Maybe he's a little high, so he's just going for minerals right now. And he's probably putting most of that into zealots. Yeah, it looks like he is. I think he might switch to charge lots with this amount that he has right now. We might see Twilight Council coming up here pretty soon, because I don't even see him going for any more stalkers. He could switch into Blink Stalkers late game, which is never a terrible strategy, but with Colossi it might be a little overkill. So I'm interested to see what HUK does, because he's kind of at an awkward point in his tech right now. MrHasuObs is going to be marching over, and he already has his Colossus out. And HUK's actually going to be engaging. What is he doing? That's a lot of unnecessary losses right there. Obs' army is clearly stronger. HUK does have this Immortal, but Obs has 2 and a Colossus, so HUK really can't afford to lose engagements like that, because that is how Obs will gain confidence, and I don't think he realizes that he actually could probably, with good control, overpower HUK if he had pursued him. So then again, both players should be scouting around. Let's see if Obs has an observer anywhere. Yeah, he has an observer, but in a pretty bad spot. But now he is going to see HUK's whole army. That's good. But, ooh, Huk will snipe that off. Very good snipe right there. That's pretty important, keeping your opponent in the dark. Protoss does not have very good scouting, save for that one unit, the Observer, so getting that out of the equation is pretty big. MrHasuObs is going to be pushing out. EGHuk does have the sight advantage. And I think Obs is just going. I think the match is just going to stabilize right now. Both players are going to try to macro and see who can win that macro game. I think MrHasuObs had a little bit of momentum, but he's realizing that if he makes a mistake, EGHuk has been ahead on macro. So if he makes a mistake with his army, which is what he was ahead in, well, I don't see how he could come back. So he's playing it safe here. See that the harvester count is just about equal, and in the production tab we finally are getting extended thermal lance for Huk. We already have it for MrHasuObs. He got his robo and robotics bay out much more quickly, but 2 robos, double robo all the way, so we're gonna see a lot of Colossi. This is actually becoming a lot more standard for late game Protoss to get that two robotics bay play going on and just pump out Colossi and just have army compositions that are almost purely Colossi and Stalkers or Zealots. And in my opinion, the Zealots with charge are much better than Blink Stalkers just because they take up so much more damage, but once they get into the battle they do so much if you have been upgrading throughout the game. Though in Protoss versus Protoss, upgrades aren't very common when we see double robo play like this, unless you're on 3 or more bases. So, as I say that, we are getting Forge upgrades for MrHasuObs. He is getting a Twilight Council as well, so I suspect, based on his unit composition, I'm suspecting, actually it could go either way with Warpins. So it could be either Blink or Charge at this point. Getting weapons level 2, getting another Forge, so, and a Templar Archives. Maybe he doesn't even want Charge or Blink. So I think MrHasuObs might be wanting to drag this game on a little bit more. But if we look at the food count, that macro has really swung into the favor of EGHuk. And while MrHasuObs does have positioning right here, I think Huk just has a dominant army. Really, that sprang up out of nowhere if you think about it. Well, if you think about it, it's actually from him having that expo so much longer. But obviously, MrHasuObs had an army that was bigger more quickly. But over time, Huk's macro has just brought him above and beyond what Ops was at. So he's going to be going into a defensive mode, which is a smart thing because Huk's army is pretty large over here. Does he have charge? Is he even attempting to get charge? Does not look like it, which is kind of discouraging because when you get this many Zealots, I think it's almost unforgivable not to get charge. Especially when you might be wanting to use force fields and you want to get around those more quickly. Trying to position and didn't get this third cancelled. So the number of expos is even again, and here is this ginormous Colossi battle that we were talking about. MrHasuObs actually getting some Archons out as well, and amazingly he has, I think, a bigger amount of Colossi than his opponent. He actually has 8, and that is a lot of Zealots. And here we go. We could see a lot of force fields going down. We do have Guardian Shield. This Archon is taking a lot of damage. It's giving a lot of damage to all these Clump Zealots, and I think all the Zealots are dead just about now. The Guardian Shield ball of Colossi is going to be moving back for both players. It's whoever can dwindle the Colossi number of their opponent first is going to win. These Immortals, of course, are going to be doing a lot of damage, as they do great damage to Heavy. And it's just a lot of volleys, and it's going to be a lot of micro, a lot of A-click. And I think MrHasuObs is actually playing this just about perfectly. Not committing too much, picking off Colossi when he can, and I don't think he's lost one Colossus of his own. And Huk's going to be forced to move back. If we can look at the food count, MrHasuObs has actually come into the lead, and EGHuk is now the one on the defensive. Oh my gosh. This is pretty insane considering MrHasuObs was down like about 30 food. And EGHuk is going to have to haul it back. These zealots, which don't even have charge, are pretty much useless. They die instantly to 8 colossi. I don't know what you would expect. Stalkers would at least be able to get some hits off. And both players, as we can see, are just going to be pumping out those colossi more and more. And it's just going to be, you know, positioning and micro from here on out. There's no metagaming. It's going to be just a little bit of brute force. And MrHasuObs is going to take this third. EGHuk actually is in a bit of a position where he's not as comfortable to take his third. He's going to try to, as we see here. MrHasuObs is going to scout this, I do believe. But he is going to have his third up by a decent amount of time. And yep, MrHasuObs is going to scout this right now. EGHuk's still not getting it up. Maybe he's pumping out a little bit more colossi first. He actually went to get a Twilight Council. I think no, it did finish, and now he's getting a Templar Archives as well, so he's way behind in tech compared to MrHasuObs, which really just surprises me because obviously EGHuk got his expansion up, his first expansion, his second base up much more quickly, and you'll hear me say that a lot throughout the game, I'm sure you have, but it's really so important in Protoss versus Protoss because 2 bases is so much stronger than 1 base in any mirror match, and to throw away an advantage like that, I don't know if throw away, but to just dump it in zealots and not have them do anything is really just discouraging. And MrHasuObs is on the offensive. He has a proxy pylon. He's warping in more Archons, and he has a good amount of colossi, but he's kind of clumped together. And I think EGHuk has really good positioning right now. He's really spread out, and he's just going to swarm in, kind of come all over MrHasuObs. And MrHasuObs is going to have to play this pretty well because EGHuk is really well spread out. He doesn't have any areas where you can get an AoE effect from these colossi going on, and I think EGHuk defended that pretty well. However, MrHasuObs has so many more colossi. We have 10 colossi here for MrHasuObs as opposed to EGHuk's 5. So EGHuk is really just struggling. I don't know how EGHuk could come back to this into this game. Maybe if he started pumping out like purely immortals and focus firing down the colossi, but he's even down in expansion. MrHasuObs has this up and saturated. It's running. His income is just way ahead of EGHuk, which this is basically the opposite of what we saw earlier in the game, around the 10-minute mark. EGHuk now getting the army that MrHasuObs had about 5 minutes ago. So really, EGHuk is just struggling at this point. He's down in expansion. I think he knows it just based off this colossi number, but then again, MrHasuObs has just kept the number, and EGHuk will call GG. And a good game it was indeed. You know, I think really EGHuk played the beginning brilliantly. He got that early pressure, if you guys remember, with that 3-gate. He was able to seal off MrHasuObs in his own base. From there, he expanded safely, and he just waited back and had that comfortable lead. But he dumped so many of his resources into zealots. Didn't even get charge, which I think if he had gotten that, he might have taken the game. Who can say? MrHasuObs, I think, got his double robo out more quickly, and for that had 1 or 2 more colossi at this first encounter in this area at MrHasuObs' first expansion, and I think that might have swung the game into his favor since that point. Thanks for watching, guys. If there were a couple spikes along the way, I apologize, but I think I'm having a couple problems with my computer. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Hobo4Craft signing out.